All right, welcome back to the Miserable Podcast. We know that a lot of you who listen to us either are or wanting to at some point work with clients. And what we also know is that working with clients can be difficult. So I wanted to ask you guys, but we're jumping right in today. We're just straight into this one. Wanted to ask you guys, what are some of the hard lessons that you have learned working with clients? And maybe some things that somebody's starting out that they can expect, or somebody who is currently doing it. Maybe we can talk about how we've dealt with some of those situations too. Kenny, hard lesson you've learned working with clients. Go.
Oh, I'm dealing with one right now. People changing the scope of the project after you sign the contract. So annoying.
So how do you deal with that? Do you put clauses in the contract, or do you just say, do you acquiesce, or do you just say no?
One thing that I'm learning is you have to be honest with people, and you have to let them know, I'm not doing this because this amount of what you're changing is going to cause more work, which is, I need to get paid for that. And it's about making sure people respect you as a creator, whatever aspect you're working in. So you just have to be honest and have that conversation, and you have to learn how to have that conversation in a way that's very candid, but also very professional. You're not attacking people. You're not, telling people straight up, just, no, I'm not doing that. You're just like, hey, and a lot of it, and, I call you for advice because you've been doing this longer, working with clients longer than I have. And one thing that you always tell me, and I've heard from other people, which is like super important, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is a lot of times people just aren't educated about what you're doing. So you have a responsibility in a lot of situations to educate them and explain to them why things cost the way they do, why you can't change the scope of the project the way you want to without discussing it first. So,
yeah. All right. What about you?
Some people aren't like giving you any sort of like resistance because they are trying to take advantage of you. Some people are, some people aren't.
Right.
So that's where that education aspect comes in, is like, sometimes they just don't understand that what they're asking for is not reasonable, because it may seem simple to them. So, I mean, like, what was the initial question?
Just a hard lesson you've learned working with clients, and you just said that people try to change the scope of the project.
Yeah. Well, some people just aren't going to be happy. Like that shoot that you helped me with in November, like we showed up, we did what they wanted. Some of the conditions that we were working in, like with some of the candid stuff, weren't ideal to shoot in, lighting, situation wise. And I tried to do my best with what I had at the time. So I've learned that some people too will take that, if they're unhappy with like one part of a larger project, they might also start to project that onto like other aspects of the project. The other thing too is some people might, like, you might have a contact at like a business that you're working with, and you all of a sudden start getting resistance. This happened with that music video that we did a while back. We start getting resistance, and you're like kind of caught off guard. You're like, where is this coming from? And then you might end up learning that there's another voice that all of a sudden has joined the conversation that wasn't there at first. Those are the people that all of a sudden were like, quarter, half the way or more through the project. And they're like, I don't agree with this. And it's like, we're too far in for you to disagree. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that happens a lot too. And if that's not communicated from the client, that can damage a relationship. It can affect a project negatively. it can kill a project that might have otherwise been good just because someone new disagreed because they weren't there during the decision-making process.
So far we have clients who changed the scope of a project, the understanding that some people just won't be happy. New players are introduced into the process. Then the one that I thought of is that sometimes people kind of expect you to have some sort of magic wand to make everything that they did better. And it's like, having to explain to people the big project that we referenced today that we did a couple years ago, one of my recording projects, and you helped me out a lot with it, is like we're setting up the mics. Your people are showing up. What they're singing is not good. And it's choirs. It's not a single. If it's a single vocalist, you can kind of work some magic. But they're like, what can you do with that? I mean, I can do some things to maybe make it more pleasant. But what we recorded, we just captured what happened. Right. So what happened is what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't have some magic wand that's just going to make it sound another way that you wanted it to.
Yeah.
So that's just like one thing for me is sometimes people are like, can you fix that? Now, sometimes you can, but it's those people that, especially the ones that aren't prepared, who have a subjectively lower level of talent or something like that. And then, they just don't realize the limitations of
maybe
the
not talent, but experience or something.
Yeah, the post-production process. They don't understand that,
right?
Yeah,
like that shoot in November, part of the reason why it wasn't as good as it could have been is they were notified ahead of time to lay the place out differently, organize it, clean things up. Not that the place was dirty, but just making the situation better. Like you're talking about you showing up, those people showing up and they sang what they sang. In my case, it was you were told to take and clean up your offices, to take these books and these files and put these all away. That's fine. You do that or not, but I'm still going to come into the office. And if it's not there's not good lighting, there's low natural light, whatever, it makes my job more difficult because I'm trying to make something good out of an environment that's not.
Which takes me to my next point, which is don't ever assume that your client is going to show up prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't tell you how many times people have paid a lot of money to be recorded. They write a check. I show up, set up, they come to me, and they have no idea what they're doing. And I'm like,
wow.
You guys paid this much money to come in here and wing it? And yep, that's going to come across on the recording.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to always think it's this is a big deal. They're paying this much, this will be a breeze, man. They'll be ready. Nope. It rarely ever happens like that.
Yeah. One thing I'm learning with all these different things too is what helps is really sitting down with your clients and just talking to them beforehand to kind of see what their goal is. What are you trying to achieve? Oh, you want this to look like this because you want to get more clients in your store, or do you really have an idea that you have thought through? Right. So when I come in, we know exactly what we're going to do.
Right. So you clarify the goal of the project.
Right.
Because that gives you direction for what the project should actually be. Have you guys ever, I don't know if this has happened to me. Have you ever sat down with a client that said, I want to make a video or I want to do whatever, and you've just kind of been like, I just don't think that a video is the best thing for you. Have you ever encountered that? Maybe you should do this. instead. The closest thing that I can think of is people come, they're like, I want to do an album. And I'm like, I don't do albums anymore. I just don't. Because the whole quantity versus quality thing, like, you don't have 12 good original songs. You just don't. Sorry. I don't. Like, nobody does. We just talked about in the last podcast, like big time artists, have to filter through a ton of songs to get their 12. Like, and they're working with the best songwriters in the world. You don't have 12 great songs. You might have 2 really good ones and another one that's all right. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, let's do those and make those really good. Let's put that 12 song energy and time into those 3 and make those even better. So I've moved people in that direction before. But have you ever advised a client not to work with you on the thing that they originally came to you for?
Yeah. I've talked people out of working on a project before. I can't think of a specific instance, but I know that I have. A lot of people that aren't necessarily like media minded or like in this realm full time don't know what they want. And it's not just like, oh, you want a video and you don't know how you want it to be, or you don't know what you want the project to look like. It's not that. Like, some people will see a similar business, like say you're like a coffee shop, and maybe you're new to the area, or maybe you're just new to incorporating like a media presence into your business. They'll look at other coffee shops. Churches do this too all the time. I guess every type of business does, but they'll look at other businesses and they're like, oh, I saw this and I really like that type of content. Can we put something like that together? Yes, we can. But is it really the best thing? Like, first of all, are you set up in your like community presence or online presence enough to where if we make a video, it's even going to impact anyone or is even going to reach someone? So in those situations, I've talked to people and I've been like, maybe we need to wait on that thing that you want and work on setting us up for success with that later on down the road. Start reaching out to your community online, start connecting with people, run some smaller ads, some simpler things, and then work your way up towards the big thing.
Right.
Because there's so many times like it's easy to look at like a sick video online that, someone made for like the well-known business in that community and be like, oh, that's awesome. That'd be really great if we had something like that. But if you've got no one to show it to, you're just throwing the money out the window.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? Because maybe by the time you have the recognition for that to impact someone, it's outdated. The style, the store doesn't look that way anymore. Whatever the case may be.
And there's some things that the investment in that thing is part of what makes it great. So that if you don't have the same budget, you might not be able to achieve the same effect.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not always true, but there are certainly things that, let's like this may be a bad example, like a sci-fi movie. Like, you probably need a large budget if you're doing a movie that's set in space or different planets. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, could you get by because you get creative? Sure. But like, that may be something that, you guys have talked about before, where you've had something that's very large and you either
scale it down or something.
You either put it in a place, keep it safe so that when you get to a point you can do it, or you scale it down to a point that's doable. Like, I've been trying to think of like an idea just to do something fun maybe next year of like a short film and like doing a serious one, like that would take a year to complete, like the absolute best thing that I could do.
Still gonna suck.
Right.
Not because you're you, but just because we don't do it a lot.
I know. But just think like, and it's funny because it's like, oh, you could do this. And you're like, no, couldn't do that. Like, you know, like, oh, no. Like, so it's like, I'm trying to navigate this story, but then I get to these points where it's like, yeah, that wouldn't be possible. So let's back up. So what does the character do if he can't do that? Where does he go? You know? But one of the points that I wrote down, and we'll summarize all these, is like, at some point you can almost go from a service provider or an expert in something to just becoming an advisor. Mm-hmm. And sometimes a client needs that because, like you said, they're like, "Oh, that's shiny. I want one." Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to say, "Well, that may not apply to you as much, but have you thought about doing this?" Mm-hmm. Which you become an advisor or a consultant kind of at that point. Another lesson that I have learned working with clients is that they are, and this is difficult, but not necessarily because they make it difficult. But I think people are willing to pay more than I think they are most of the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
think that I've undervalued mainly all of my projects. Like seriously. And I think sometimes it's projected on, you know what, I've talked about this before, because, you know, I didn't grow up wealthy or, you know, in a family that had a lot of dispensable income. So I price things that I'm comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And what I'm learning is that there are people out there who have and spend a lot more money than me and my family did. And it's like, I'm having to learn that's like, oh shoot, that's how people make money. Like, and it's like, it comes down to the point that's like, you know, people, it's like, how does like the majority of the population of the country have like $1,000 phones in their pocket? Like, makes no sense. But it's like, man, people spend money on what they value, you know?
Right.
So that's kind of been one of my mistakes, I think, is assuming that my clients can afford what I can afford, you know, and that's not the case.
Yeah. And going back to what you were saying too about just scaling things down, it made me think about this movie I saw 2 weeks ago called Freaks on Netflix. I challenge people to go watch that movie and then look up the budget. It's a great movie, and we watched the whole thing through. And one thing I realized is that they didn't have many scenes or many sets. Right. I was just like, man, I feel like this is like $50,000. They spent, I don't want to say what it is, but they spent literally, we could afford to make the movie, all of us individually. And it's the production value of the movie is crazy. So I think what a lot of clients end up doing is they think because they're spending less money, the product isn't going to be as good. But the thing is, that's not true. Especially, you got to look at who you're working with. And I think it's our jobs to instill that confidence in people. Look, you don't have to spend $2,000 on a video. You can spend $500 on a very simple idea that'll look amazing, and that'll give you that'll help you meet the end goal that you're trying to reach.
Still effective,
right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good movies that ended up being big, but with small budgets,
right?
Like Cloverfield. What's that? Paranormal Activity. There's a lot of those movies often fall under like suspense, thriller, and horror. But there's a lot of really great things out there that were effective that didn't cost like the price of big Hollywood budgets because they focused on what mattered. Reaching an audience or telling the right kind of story in the right way. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just all about trying to finding out what your client wants, right? Because sometimes, especially in small businesses, they don't have a lot of money. I won't even say they don't have a lot of money, but they might. Some might. But a lot of them don't want to put a lot of money into marketing and media, they'll put more into like maybe packaging design, or like if they're a physical business, maybe like, their storefront and stuff like that. And they won't put as much effort, time, money, whatever the case may be, into media because they don't see, it's not something that shows more of an immediate return. So they never learn the value of it.
Which is your job to communicate that.
Right. So, I mean, you have to help them understand, but at the same time, you have to, especially with people who don't really know, you have to, and this is something we mentioned at the beginning of this one, we have to talk and like work with them to learn what they want from the beginning.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like set the expectations early. If you don't know what your budget is for the project, I understand. You know what I mean? That's fine. But tell me what you're wanting to accomplish, and then tell me what you think you can spend on it. Because I don't know, and I don't think it's fair in a professional environment to like, well, what do you want to charge? And what's going on in the background is they've got a quote from somebody for $2,000. They got a quote from somebody for $100.
Wow.
And they're trying to see where they can get like the best deal. Like, I mean, like I get that, but I think in a professional environment, you need to know what you want and you need to set a budget for that, because that sets clear expectations on both sides of the project. They're like, I want to spend $2,000 on this at the most, and I want to try to maximize that budget the best we can. I want to try and get good value out of it. You can be cheap and still spend $2,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can be like, I want a $20,000 project out of $2,000. You know what I mean?
Well, I like to your point, now it's like people say, hey, how much do you charge for a video?
I hate that.
And it's like,
it's not that clear.
okay, stop. What kind of video do you want to make? What's the purpose of the video?
Yeah.
Okay. They explain everything. And it's like, okay, so I could make this video for you. And in my head, just imagining the options a video like this could go, I could make it anywhere from $4,000 to $40,000. So where are we between those?
Right.
And I can kind of tell you how much you tell me. I can kind of tell you what I can give you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, what would the $40,000? You can explain it, and then you give people that option, because there's no way. I mean, people ask. People have been reaching out so much. How much do you charge to do a music video like the one you did? Or it's not even like that. How much do you charge to do a music video? And it's like, for who, where, how long, what kind, what? Yeah. I mean, there's so many factors. Do you want to? I mean, we could not hire anybody, and we could do it. Or maybe you want 100 people on the street. It's going to take money to get them out there. I mean, how many? There's. Mm-hmm. Do you have? Or maybe you want to say, I want to give you guys $4,000 on top of the actual production for you guys to. You can add in elements that you think would be good on set or in post-production. Cool. And that, so there's so many different ways to do it. So that's one of the things I learned too, is not to assume what the project is on both sides of the table, because everybody has a different idea of what a video, what does that even mean?
Value as well.
And then another one I was going to say is just one thing I've really learned is that when I know in recording, when somebody comes to me, when a client comes to me and we sit down to record, that person's fairly insecure. And that can, if you don't manage that well, that can go a few different ways. It can become combative, mm-hmm. right?
Defensive.
It can become losing confidence, which is not good. When you're trying to get somebody to sing their best or mm-hmm. play their best. It can go several different ways. And one thing that I've really learned just in producing is just patience, facial expressions, reassurance, just openness and candor. And it's just like, learning how to, one thing that I was really bad at first is, if somebody messed up, I'd be like, okay, well, so, I was thinking, and I would go this big explanation. Fast forward 10 years later, it's like, no, you can do that better. Come on. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't give them time to think. We don't have to have a conversation. You don't have to explain yourself. You can do it better. And it's like, that's not the best one you got. So you figure out these little catchphrases. That's like, it's just like, oh, come on, you got a better one. You got a better one, and you got a better one. So, just realizing that you can tip that person one way or the other, depending on just your language and your feedback, and people are fairly fragile when the microscope is on them, when they're behind a lens or in front of a lens, whatever, when they're on a microphone and, everything.
Stage or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what we have so far, the hard lessons. They change the scope of the project. Some of them just won't be happy. New players are introduced into the process. They expect a magic wand that you could just fix everything. They are not always prepared. They're often insecure. Let's talk about quickly. We'll go through and just like, how can we help some of these things?
I want to add one more.
Oh yeah, go.
Another thing that, especially I think this is more so in the beginning, is learning when to say no to people who want free work, or people who want to, they give you the line, if you do this for me,
For working for exposure.
I'll give you exposure.
Yeah.
If I do a good job, shouldn't you tell people about me anyways?
Right.
Why are you paying me in that?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's something that I've started to get from people, especially people who know me from back in the day. Hey man, I see you doing your thing. Yo, you think you could hook me up with a video? And I'm just like, I'm gonna have to charge you. But we're friends. I'm just like, we're friends, bro. But you gotta understand how much work goes into this.
Right.
How much time away from my life that this, like all those things factored in. I can't do that.
So I'm gonna challenge you on that.
Okay.
Start doing free work.
Oh, I do.
No.
I still do free work. I'm not saying all free work, but certain types you have to say
Are
no
there
to.
clients that you would do it for the exposure for?
Yes.
All right.
Those people exist. I haven't met them yet.
Well, when you're talking about
Like
somebody,
if you were going to be featured in National Geographic, and they're not paying you a dime.
That's really unlikely to happen.
I'm not asking if it's likely.
don't get too technical. Just
You would do it. You're not going to be like, don't put me in your publication unless you're.
I guess
me.
I guess it depends the situation. Like
He's overthinking. He's doing it.
like being in like the magazine nowadays might not be super valuable. I don't know enough about that realm to say yes with confidence that it would be worth just the exposure, because I don't know who I would be potentially exposed to. Like if like some of the people that we've done some work with, I mean, we've kind of done this. We went and, I mean, we didn't do much, but we went and did some of that, shot some content in Maryland at that concert. And, I did that for us. And I don't think any of those images that we shared and then I took ever got shared on a larger platform other than our own. So
what all right, something like this. What about Toyota? Because I know that's one of your goals.
Mm-hmm.
Toyota hits you up and they're like, hey man, we just want you to come out, take a couple pics, and we're gonna, we'll shop your name around to, I don't know, some other.
yeah, that situation I would, partially for the exposure and the
Pun
relation,
intended.
but mostly for the experience.
Okay.
So like in that situation, they're like, I'm imagining in that fake situation that we're making up, they're probably paying for me to go somewhere, covering my expenses minimum sort of situation. But like being in that environment, learning that, like working with a big company and learning what that would be like, both on set and off set, is a very valuable lesson that I think I could really get a lot
I
from.
think as far as just exposure, so not the experience or putting something on your resume type thing, but just somebody that would say, do it for the exposure. Where the issue comes in is when the person who says that has no audience.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if it's somebody who has an actual audience, that's valuable.
Right. Exactly.
But if somebody's just saying hey, I'm gonna tag you in the video.
I'm gonna tell my uncle about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
My 500 Instagram followers about
like
you. It's
getting credits on the end of this video that we just finished, or you guys just finished. Like, yes, there is compensation there, but I mean, we did the previous video on your dime. You know what I mean? And
which set up this video.
I was going to say that actually led to something.
We didn't even have credit in that.
But I didn't do that for exposure.
I'm just using it as an example.
We looked at that as an investment.
Right. Yeah.
So if we invest some time and money and some energy here, there could be payoff later on.
Someone on that scale, though, someone with enough eyes, and not just audience wise, but also like other lateral connections as well, or semi-lateral connections, other people in the business that maybe not music artists, but like management, different people in that realm that aren't on the performance end could also see that. So I mean, that's like, if that artist ever shared stuff from that show in Maryland, I don't necessarily think anything would come out of that exposure wise, but I would, if it's local, I would go shoot another show of his for that reason, just to have my work shared on his platform.
Right. Yeah. I
wouldn't do it all the time, but I would do it every now and then at least.
Right. Yeah, there's some things that, you guys know me. I just go with my gut.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, especially when it comes to like working with clients, I just don't overthink it. It's like,
it feels right.
Here it is. Yes or no? Yes. All right, here we go. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I'm not saying that's the right way to do it or the best way to do it. It's just that, there's certain people that are worth, because of the potential payoff, or however you want to look at it.
The end result.
Yeah, that it's worth it. And I know off of the first music video that we did, I would probably say a third of our audience, or our followers at least, probably came from that opportunity. We're interacting with people. Just last week, somebody reached out and was like, "Hey, I saw that you guys did that music video. Yeah. Like, can you give me some pointers? Because we want to shoot like a." And he actually reached out to my personal account, and he said, "Can you give me some pointers? We want to shoot like a similar video." And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." So I gave him the whole rundown of everything that we did, and he was like, "Oh, awesome! Thank you so much." And he was like this, it's something, like, how could I repay you type thing, or is there anything? And I was like, just go follow the miserable company,
Yeah.
And then 2 minutes later, follow. Now the person is engaging in our content, so it's like that. It's a very small sample size of what doing that project did for us.
Yeah.
And that's part of why I would say a big portion, other than like the what it can lead to, like the project can lead to other projects kind of situation. I think a big reason why we worked on that initial situation was to enable us to reach a larger demographic of people.
Right.
So
to break outside the circle.
Yeah.
I also think a good time to do free work is when you are starting out and you're you getting your feet wet and you haven't really done anything yet. And it's important to kind of like build up not only your portfolio, but your confidence. I think
your
that's
skill.
in your skill.
I was talking to Dylan
right.
today. Like he started a Fiverr for artwork.
Nice.
And I was like, you know, the last thing you need to be thinking about is just the money you'll make. Just do it. Get used to working with clients, doing revisions, communicating. It's going to make you do your artwork more. It's going to make you be better at it.
Yes.
It's a win-win-win-win-win-win situation. There's no loss.
Right.
It's free to set up an account. It takes 5 minutes, but then, you know, maybe it's one a month you get or something. You know, it's this one thing you're doing that client interaction, the building your skill, all of those things. I mean, it's just you can't lose.
Right.
You know, doing that. But I'll say this: I'm a huge advocate of working for free when you're first starting out, especially
for the right person.
Every good thing that is happening in my life in 2020, not gonna say every good thing, all of like the big opportunities I have in 2020 were seeds that were planted doing free work 12 years ago. I mean, really. I mean, it's just what it is. And it's like that with artists we're working with Farflung that we work with. We're very involved. It's like amazingly successful, great things coming up. And, you know, the reason I'm involved in that is I just said, hey, I'll do stuff, you know, like, and I did it and, you know, didn't ask for anything. And I get a lot in return for it. But, you know, it's just like, I'll just do that. And now it's like, man, there's so many things happening there. And then with the different artists that we're working with, they trace back to all of these other relationships that started with me just going, hey, do you want to record? The guy's like, I don't have any money. I'm like, that's fine. I just want to record, you know? So that's, man, you never know how, you know, how you'll reap from those things or how those things will turn out, you know? And there's other stories like that too. I got a buddy of mine that plays with the big top 40 artist, and that's his story. Just like, hey, let's record. And the guy was like, all right, I mean, I really don't have any money. He's like, let's just do it. Guy ends up getting signed years later, calls him back, and he's like, you want to like run my band? And he's like, sure.
That's crazy.
You know, and it's like full-time top 40 artists playing in Times Square every year, playing at Super Bowls, playing, you know, and it's like, yeah, I'll do that. Just because he saw the guy playing on the street and was like, hey, do you want to work together or something?
Yeah. Well, part of that too is like
saying?
The free work dynamic. It's important to realize there's a couple different like situations with that. Sometimes you can do free work for someone who needs it. Sometimes you can do free work in a more collaborative situation that mutually benefits two people or more people that are just starting out. So like you might make a music video for an artist, or you might record some songs for someone who doesn't have money to record. Part of the reason they don't have money to record is because they haven't recorded yet, so they're not pursuing their musical career. So like you're benefiting yourself by creating some portfolio work, getting the experience, all of that, but you're also like enabling a platform for someone else. And sometimes in those relationships, you grow with them. Like people like Clark, you know, you've told this story before, how you've gotten to where you are now and where things are now is because you guys were in a choir together. You heard him sing. You were like, you want to record something? And he was like, sure. And, you know, now there's a camaraderie because you guys kind of like, you know, what is the term? Wet your teeth.
Wet your.
What is it? Cut your teeth.
Cut your teeth.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh my
My man said, wet your tip. I don't know what that means, but
Same
go ahead.
thing. You like, you know, you guys like were born in that fire together, you know. So now like when you have an opportunity for something, you think, I want to bring him or anybody else along
but
with
it's
you.
Normally the opposite way.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm okay with. But yeah, no, I think that one of our next podcasts should be like working for free, and we'll just talk about this.
I was just thinking that
whole thing. But let's do this. Let's go down this list and give it some
You still got a timer
some
on?
quick pointers. Yeah, we don't got much time on this memory card. We're good. We got like 15 minutes, maybe. Wait, math. All right. So here we go. They want to change the scope of the project. How do you deal with this? Have clear expectations up front.
Right.
Communicate limitations and expectations up front. And then how do you deal with it when they say, hey, I know we were going to do this, but now we want to reshoot that and we want to go and do this.
That's your opportunity to educate. Let me explain to you why that changes the logistics of the project and why that could cost more money and why it's more work. You make them let them know what it is so they understand where you're coming from instead of just being like, I can do it, but it's going to be extra 500. And they're like,
and
whoa.
I think even before that,
oh yeah,
even before what you just said, what you can say is find out why. So, okay, you want to reshoot that. So instead of going straight to, all right, well, let's talk about why this is going to cost more. You could say, okay, why do you feel that way? What do you? Well, we think another idea might be better. See, when I hear that, I'm like, well, red flag. But what I'm hearing is you're self-conscious about your product and you're trying to throw some duct tape on it or something, and we're probably not going to be much better.
Yeah.
So then you can really address it. Okay, do you really feel like that? Or, whatever. And then you can go on to what you were saying, maybe. I don't know. I just happened to think about that. All right, the next one we said, some clients just won't be happy. Now, this one's tricky because I don't want to use it as an excuse. Like, I don't want to just be like, they're just not going to like it no matter what I do. So forget it. So let's just say that's not the case. Okay. Right. We'll play the opposite of devil's advocate and we'll just go with it.
God's advocate.
Like you just have somebody who's not going to be happy. One piece of advice I would give is remember that not always is going to be a reflection on you and your work. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people just didn't know what they wanted to begin with and they don't understand their own limitations or the limitations of their budget.
Right. And sometimes it gets there because of maybe a missed opportunity for communication at the beginning or earlier in the process, an opportunity where you could have educated them on, why a certain element of the project is what it is, and also clarification at the beginning of what they were expecting, because that unhappiness might just come from the process that they're not familiar with, getting to a point where they're dissatisfied and it's like past the point of no return. You know what I mean? We've already done most of the work. I can't refund you. We can't give you back your time. So I think, that just falls onto the responsibility of education again, in a way, or it can, not in every situation.
Right.
All right. This next one's tough. New players introduced into late in the process.
Honesty.
I was going to say maybe going to the original person that you've been dealing with and maybe having some sort of conversation now you may have somebody that's introduced that brings good value and good direction to it.
Yeah.
We're talking about the difficult one.
Yeah.
And, I would say probably my reaction would be to go to the original person I've been communicating with and say, let me express to you a concern that I have. We have been communicating for a long time. We have a clear vision. We have a clear understanding of what we're trying to do. This person that has now come on the scene, they may have good advice. They may be good at this or be offering value. However, I don't know that we have time to try to catch somebody up on the vision that we share and that we've been communicating up to this point. And what I'm afraid is that if this person is interjecting in the process, that we're going to stray from our original vision or then have something that has not anything resembled what we thought would be the best.
I'm smiling because it happened to me on set.
Yeah.
So there was no heart-to-heart time. I had to compromise, but also this is it.
Stand your ground.
Right. I had to tell him I'll do it, but this is it. I've already planned this out. We've done it. I'm sorry, but you can't come the day of and then change the game plan.
Part of the problem too is like what a lot of people don't understand is, like you said, sometimes there's voices that come in that can positively affect a project, but sometimes those voices are too late to the process.
Yeah.
Because even if you have a great idea, that would have been the better way to go about it.
You should have been here last week.
Right. You know, like you're potentially like dive bombing the process and the project. And you, all of you people that are on the other side, the client, everybody else who's over there, might end up being incredibly disappointed with the final result because we had a vision, a new voice was introduced. Good idea, bad idea, irrelevant. Now it's different. And we have a finished project that in a way has two competing voices and two competing visions that don't fully mesh well, or as they should, because they weren't like that. All those ideas weren't a part of the development process. Mm-hmm. So you can end up with something that's not not effective, I'll say, not as effective as it could have been, as if everybody was on the same page from the beginning.
All right. About clients that expect the magic wand. Now, I'll say where I've messed up in the past is I've probably made it sound like I've been reckless with my language, and I've said, I can fix that. Or I can deal with that later. Or, I may have made it seem as if
you created that expectation.
Right. I might have created that expectation. Now, in the particular project that I'm thinking about where they were disappointed in the recording, I had to explain to them that what you are hearing, is what I alluded to earlier, is what was captured. I can't change what was captured unless I re-record it. And I'm not 120 people, so I can't re-record it. And it was just like, well, could we do this, and this? No. Well, what if we brought in half of them? Could you mix them in? We could. Now, this is the problem with that. That's an entire recording day again. Well, we could just pick, what if we just picked the best singers? Okay.
Still the same problem.
Right. So here we go. We're going down that path. So I think sometimes I've put the expectation on the client, and also other times I've had to do that role of, trying to make people understand that the mic don't lie. Like what you put in that is what comes out. You know what I mean? Especially when it's, doing a choir or a orchestra or things like that.
Well, you talk about people that like are like insecure about like what they do. So like someone in a choir might be perfectly comfortable on Sunday morning singing with that group of 120, because maybe live it can be mixed in a way where they're not really heard or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, live is a lot more forgiving.
Right. So in that situation, those people expect you to like wave the magic wand. And I get this all the time. And some people just say it in like, most people say it jokingly, but most people also mean it. Can you make me skinnier? Can you make me younger? And it's like, ha ha ha, it's funny, but no, I can't. I can. Sure, I can Photoshop you and like, use the liquefy tool and make you look thinner. Like people, they do that on magazines. But first of all, that's not who you are. And second of all, if you're, and this is what because you were there.
Want to be skinnier, lose weight.
You know this because you were there while I was communicating with people. I was trying my best, and I always do when I'm working with people. Hi. Rude.
Made him mad. Sorry.
I always try to communicate with people that I can tell are insecure about their appearance, that it's okay to not be happy.
It's okay to be ugly.
It's true. It is. it's okay not to be happy with yourself. I understand that. And I usually cover that by like making fun of myself.
You were killing it that day, by the way.
But like, I tell them like, if you're uncomfortable, you have to work right now to find a place where you can be as comfortable as possible. Don't think about the fact that you're getting your picture taken. Don't think about, the fact that you don't like your smile or you feel like you're short or overweight or bald. Like, I never say those things, but
You feel like you're bald. You're not, but you just feel like it.
You give the impression of baldness. But I try to tell them, if you're uncomfortable, that's going to make your picture worse. And then you're going to see your picture, sense your discomfort in the image itself, and also remember how uncomfortable you were. And you're reinforcing your negative opinion about yourself.
And it's a vicious cycle.
It very much is. So like I always tell people like I was making fun of myself. At one point I was like, some people were so tall I was standing on those wooden apple boxes, and I was like just imagine if I fell off and ripped the camera down with me, like all this stuff, because the only way that I'm going to get the best out of you is if you're willing to give it your best shot.
I think at one point you asked someone, think about your favorite, like, what's your favorite movie or something like that? Yeah. They were like, I don't watch movies. Yes. I was like, what is he going to do now?
I think that was that one guy that didn't know how to shake hands.
Oh, that was weird.
But yeah, no, like I'll try to like just distract people too. Like I was asking people what their favorite comedy movies were because I was hoping I would find a spot that would make them laugh. Like I asked one lady about like her grandchildren. I was like, is there someone in your family that just like always makes you smile or makes you laugh? And she was like, oh yeah, my granddaughter or something like that. And I was like, is there something that they say or do like that just always gets you? So
Sorry.
What?
I just thought about something so random. Keep going. Sorry.
So, and that's like, all I'm trying to do is attempting to break down their walls.
And this is relating to the magic wand.
Yes. I'm not going to make you thinner. I'm not going to Photoshop. I'm going to take, if there's certain things you want to clean up some blemishes.
What you're saying is you're applying the magic wand in real life in the process.
Trying to preempt the need for the magic wand.
Got you.
Like if you're more comfortable in the situation, it's just going to turn out better for you.
Right.
And then you're going to look at that picture and you're not going to be upset as much.
Do you have anything on the magic wand?
Yeah.
All right. The next one. Don't assume your clients will be prepared.
Donuts assume.
Consume.
Donuts consume you. Yeah. No, that's.
So what can we do? We're talking about how we fix that.
I would say going back to the example that I've been using. So I would say the majority of people weren't ready, or maybe they weren't understanding what would have been needed of them. Part of the problem there was my lack of experience in a situation like this. I've shot for companies before, like it was headshots and stuff. But this was the first time that I was working with a marketing agency as a middleman. So I was a little unclear at different times who was kind of like doing, you cannot drink today, doing the communication and setting some of those expectations. So like I was talking to one person in the, company that I was going to work with. And then I was talking with another person in the marketing agency. And then I was talking, all of a sudden that person went on vacation and I was talking to another person. So there was like 4 voices that I was communicating with. So when it came time to actually do the project, I think there were some expectations that weren't clarified. Partially my fault. Just
defining roles and clarifying all those things.
And sometimes you need to repeat yourself. Like part of the thing was like, they wanted candid shots in their office. And that's great. But you need to understand, like, your office is not a, like, high-rise, big glass window office, you have small windows in each room, so there's not a lot of natural light. Fluorescent lights everywhere, low ceilings, cubicles, files and stuff everywhere. I'm going to do my best to make good images here, but we have to work together, and by that, think ahead for me. Part of also my problem was I didn't go there ahead of time. I should have, just to get an idea of what the office was like, because I think that problem would have been mostly solved. I don't know if they still would have had that period, because they're fine now. Like, I've talked to the girl and it's no problem. But there was a period where, like, it seemed like they were, like, completely unhappy with the situation. And I think if I would have gone there ahead of time and, did some location scouting, got an idea of the best places in the building to shoot, or even this is what I said when they were discussing a possible reshoot. I was like, maybe there's another building in the area that we can go and use as a set, like another office space somewhere, colleagues of yours, what have you. Doesn't even got to be the same business type. You know what I mean? Like, another business somewhere where we can set a professional environment up that can stand in for your office, but have your people in it. You know what I mean? Because it was all about the faces, realistically, with that project. The building didn't matter, right. As far as like people being like, oh, this is in your office. But we needed the images to look good.
I think for me, one thing that I've tried to do is just share my game plan with people and discuss it a couple days before a week before, whatever, just to let them know what you're going to be doing and what you need from them. Very first music video that I shot, I did that. I scouted the location. I talked to the guy. I was like, this is what we're going to do. This is what I need you to bring. And I think that was one of the smoothest shoots that I've ever done, because there was so much prep and I involved the client in the prep as well.
Yeah. And I would say don't be shy about telling your client what to do.
Right.
That's part of the reason they hired you, because they can't think about all that. So like me producing someone's album or doing a recording, I'm going to look at somebody and they're going to say, okay, so on this day, we're going to record guitar and trumpet, right? So I'm going to look at the dude and I'm going to say very obvious things. Okay, your guitarist needs to bring his guitar. And I do this, like, I would never expect a client to be like, oh, okay. Like, they're like, oh, yeah. Because you never know. Dude's going to show up and be like, so this is a studio, like, you got 100 guitars laying around? You never know. So it's like the obvious things. Tell him to bring whatever. If he was going to set up on a stage, bring all of his stuff, whatever makes him comfortable. This is what I have. Have him be prepared to bring all of the things that he needs, including this, and that. And as far as your other guy, whatever.
Right.
So don't be afraid to tell your clients, to give them those directions, because part of the reason they hire you is so you can help them think through all those details.
Yeah.
All right. So here's 4 quick pointers we also talked about, and then we'll call her quits. Number 1, clarify the purpose of the project from the very beginning. That'll help you. That'll help creative direction. That'll help the business direction,
Budgeting,
everything.
Yeah.
The second thing, be prepared to be a consultant. So a lot of times, that's like, for instance, meeting with accountant, tax professional. Part of the reason I'm meeting is not necessarily because I want to become their client, but because I really would like them just to consult me on a few things that I don't understand. Now, I may end up also
employing their
and being a
services.
client, but if I go there and start asking questions and they don't give me any answers, I'm probably not going to want to work with them.
Right.
Right. Another thing, communicate and define roles. So I think this is a big one, like especially if you're working with a larger team, or if you're doing video alongside somebody else who's doing something else. I don't know. Like, make sure everybody understands what they're responsible for. Make sure you understand what you're responsible for, and think through the whole process for your client too. And then the last one, and this will probably be the topic of our next podcast, do free work. And there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
some red flags that go up. But so hopefully this was valuable to you guys out there. I know that I've wanted to do for a while. I want to do a video just talking about working with clients and pricing and discovering the project with your client and finding clients and all of those things. So this is a good icebreaker moving into maybe a video series that we'll do discussing some of those things. It's midnight. It's officially Friday. The podcast would have dropped about 5 minutes ago, and I haven't edited the Casual Friday for today yet. So I'm going to go home and edit this podcast and go to sleep at 2 a.m. How y'all feeling?
Good.
Night.
Hopefully my co-host here, hopefully you got something from this. And if not, tough. I'm going to start saying that. That's the new thing at the end of every episode.
You don't like it tough.
All right. Love you guys. Theme song out now.